Imagine this. One night you suddenly wake up, only to realize you're not lying in your own bed anymore. Instead, you're strapped to what feels like a metal table, almost like an operating slab. Around you, there's nothing. No furniture, no windows, no doors, and even stranger, there's no visible light source. Yet the entire room glows bright, every metallic pattern on the walls clear as day. That's when it hits you. You're inside some kind of cold metallic chamber. You panic and try to move, but even though there are no restraints, your arms and legs refuse to respond. And then, you notice them. Small, gray-skinned figures with huge black eyes and unnaturally thin limbs. Each one holding some kind of strange instrument, tools that look like they're meant for surgery. And in the corner of the room, towering nearly 8 feet tall, stands a creature with the head of a mantis. It doesn't move, it doesn't speak, it just watches you in silence. At that moment, would you not be scared out of your mind? It sounds like the plot of a low-budget sci-fi movie, but in the 1980s, a middle-aged woman from Massachusetts, who chose to remain anonymous, described this exact scenario while under hypnosis. Back then, reports of UFOs and alien abductions were everywhere. The Cold War years weren't just about nuclear fear. They were also an era when supernatural legends and mass anxieties intertwined. And it was during this time that UFO researcher Ray Fowler came across the woman's story. To protect her identity, he gave her the alias Elaine and included her bizarre account of being abducted by mantis-like beings in one of his case studies. It began in the fall of 1981. Elaine started experiencing strange, unexplainable events in the middle of the night. At first, it was just the occasional sudden awakening. She'd find herself paralyzed, her entire body frozen in place, while a low buzzing sound filled her ears, like the hum of several machines running all at once. She brushed it off at first, thinking maybe it was insomnia or just a case of sleep paralysis. But as time went on, these episodes became more frequent. Each time, even though she was wide awake, her mind would suddenly fill with a vivid image, a cold, metallic room glowing with blue-white light. No windows, no doors, a place that didn't belong to this world. She knew she was still in her bedroom, yet it felt like she had been pulled into another space entirely. And there was something else. Every time one of these experiences ended, strange marks would appear on her body. Neat rows of tiny puncture wounds on her arms, on her legs, as if she had been poked with precision instruments. Concerned, Elaine went to see a doctor. But after several tests, nothing abnormal showed up. The doctor chalked the marks up to skin allergies or maybe scratching herself in her sleep. But Elaine knew better. Those marks weren't from allergies. They weren't the kind of scrapes or scratches you'd get from everyday life. They looked deliberate, like something only a machine could make. Frustrated and unsettled, she confided in her family. But instead of support, her husband dismissed it as stress-induced hallucinations. Her kids even joked, "Mom's been watching too many science fiction movies." Their laughter and disbelief left her feeling isolated, silenced. She stopped talking about it. But the fear inside her only grew stronger. Elaine began dreading sleep. Night after night, she forced herself to stay awake, watching TV until dawn, terrified of being dragged back into that otherworldly room. But no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't stop it. From time to time, she was still pulled into that other space. By March of 1982, Elaine headed to Boston to attend a conference. During a break, she wandered into the hotel lobby and spotted a magazine rack. Out of boredom, she picked up a copy of UFO Quarterly Journal. Flipping through the pages, she came across an article that mentioned a strange phenomenon, waking up at night with unusual physical symptoms. The description matched her own experiences almost exactly. At the end of the article, she noticed contact information for the Massachusetts MUFON Research Group, along with the name of a well-known investigator, Ray Fowler. Elaine quickly jotted down the group's address and phone number. As soon as the conference ended, she drove straight out to their office, a small apartment on the outskirts of Boston. That's where she finally met Fowler. After explaining why she was there, it turned out she couldn't have come at a better time. Fowler was deeply involved in researching what people were calling alien abduction cases. Naturally, her story caught his attention immediately. Elaine held nothing back. She told him everything she had gone through. But when she finished, Fowler looked troubled. He told her that her account was too vague, missing the important details needed to understand what had really happened. Then he suggested something bold: hypnotic regression. Under hypnosis, he explained, she might be able to recover the buried memories that could finally reveal the truth behind those terrifying nightmares. Elaine hesitated for a long time, but in the end, her curiosity won out. She agreed. She had to know what was behind all of this. The session took place right there in Fowler's office. The room was silent, lit only by thin slivers of sunlight sneaking through the curtains. A faint scent of lavender lingered in the air. As Fowler gently guided her voice deeper into relaxation, Elaine closed her eyes, and memories she didn't even know she had began to surface. She recalled that night. Lying in her bed, she felt an invisible force lift her up, helpless, unable to resist. A blinding light flashed before her eyes. When her vision cleared, she realized she was no longer in her home. She was inside an unfamiliar room aboard some kind of craft. The room was unnervingly quiet, but the air vibrated with a low hum. Several small gray beings surrounded her, moving quickly and without emotion. Their heads were large and smooth, their eyes solid black. They had no noses, no real mouths, and only 3 long fingers on each hand. Elaine found herself placed on what looked like a surgical table, surrounded by strange instruments she didn't recognize. The beings appeared to be recording data, performing examinations, but she couldn't hear them speak a word. Yet what shattered Elaine completely wasn't the grays. She vividly remembered a tall figure standing silently in the corner of the room. It was the first time she ever saw what she would later call the Mantis being. The Mantis being stood nearly 8 feet tall, its body long and thin, with its back slightly hunched. Its head was triangular, and its glowing green eyes pierced the room. Its arms were long and jointed, shaped eerily like the forelimbs of a praying mantis. Unlike the Greys, it didn't take part in the procedures. It only stood there, watching everything unfold. In that moment, Elaine felt a crushing sense of pressure, as if she were standing before some higher judge, a being that held absolute authority. And yet, at the same time, a voice echoed directly inside her head. The Mantis being was speaking to her through telepathy. "Do not be afraid." But that so-called reassurance didn't calm her at all. It terrified her even more. Because if this creature could speak straight into her mind, it meant it had complete access to her thoughts. The Mantis being seemed to sense her fear. When it realized its attempt at comfort wasn't working, another wave of telepathic communication struck her. This time it told Elaine that humanity itself was part of a massive experiment. Earth, and the entire development of human civilization, had been under unseen control all along. They were carrying out what it called genetic modification of the species. That's when Elaine finally understood. The small gray beings weren't the masterminds at all. They were nothing more than servants following orders. The real power behind it all was the Mantis being. Meanwhile, Fowler was scribbling everything down as fast as he could in his notebook. Just as he prepared to guide her deeper into the memory, Elaine's voice changed. It broke, trembling with tears. She said she could see several transparent containers placed in the corner of the room. Inside floated strange, horrifying life forms. Some resembled human embryos, but their limbs and heads carried insect-like features. Others looked like oversized insects, but with vague human facial traits hidden in their eyes and mouths. Elaine said she could feel it clearly. These genetic hybrids were the core of the entire experiment. They were products of genetic engineering. When Fowler asked her how she felt seeing these hybrids, Elaine burst into tears. She said in that moment, she felt unbearably small, nothing more than a sample trapped inside some vast, incomprehensible plan. Overwhelmed, she kept asking the Mantis being in her mind, "Why me? Why did you choose me?" But the Mantis being never answered. It only stared at her with its cold, unblinking gaze, making her feel even more insignificant. When the hypnosis session finally ended, Elaine was still shaking uncontrollably. Fowler handed her a cup of warm water and spoke to her gently until she gradually calmed down. Later in his research report, Fowler put forward a bold hypothesis. The Mantis beings might actually be the true orchestrators behind the entire phenomenon of alien abductions. They weren't just observing humanity, they were actively interfering at the genetic level, conducting cross-species experiments on a scale we can hardly imagine. The Greys in this view were nothing but their tools, assigned to carry out sampling, handle equipment, and record data. And that raised one of the most chilling questions of all. Are we, as a species, nothing more than experimental subjects for a higher, more advanced race? That same year, Fowler compiled all the cases he had collected into a book called The Andreessen Affair. In it, he gave special focus to Elaine's abduction by the Mantis being. Once the book was published, it immediately sparked heated debate. Supporters claimed it was powerful evidence of extraterrestrial life. Skeptics, on the other hand, argued that all of the cases lacked any physical proof. Eyewitness accounts and hypnotic recall, they said, weren't enough to be trusted. One of the most vocal critics was science writer Philip Klass. He argued that the credibility of hypnotic recall was questionable, since a hypnotist's leading questions could easily push subjects into constructing false memories. Fowler pushed back, insisting that hypnotists in these cases were neutral professionals. He claimed that during the investigations they avoided leading questions, never revealing what images might appear in advance. And besides, how could the striking similarities across multiple independent cases be explained away as coincidence? Even up until her passing in 2009, Elaine herself never wavered. She continued to insist that what she experienced was real. She even stressed that it wasn't about convincing everyone. It was about sharing what she had seen and felt, in hopes that one day, the mystery of the Mantis being's identity would finally be uncovered. After Elaine's death, her daughter donated all of her hypnosis tapes, journals, and Fowler's investigation notes to a museum in Massachusetts. Over time, these materials became an important source for UFO research, and they cemented the Mantis beings as one of the most iconic symbols in UFO culture. So much so that their shadow can still be seen everywhere, from the X-Files to ancient aliens.